Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think I put out 16 too many chairs. I want to call the February 13th, 2023 Harpers Ferry Town Council meeting to order. Let the record reflect all members of the town council are physically present with the exception of Storm. So we have 6 present and Storm is not present. Any additions, corrections, changes, amendments to the agenda? Entertain a motion to approve. We have a motion to approve from Chris. We have a second from Jerry. And discussion on the motion to approve the agenda. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Public comment, I don't believe, is there any for Lisa? I don't know if Ed or Zach or Lynn or John or, okay. If you can, please stand. Jerry, why don't you remain seated, okay, on the pledge and just put your hand over your heart or something. So let's stand for our pledge.
I don't know if I get out of this chair.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, when I was in second grade, when we said the pledge all those many years ago, I always thought it was one nation under God, invisible. And I didn't know it was indivisible until 3 weeks ago.
God still is invisible.
Yeah, right. Hey, a public comment, there is none, obviously. Mayor's announcements. I have several announcements that I want to make. So council, please bear with me. First, council, we all received an email from a resident expressing concern that access to the 2 overlooks remains unavailable, despite certain agreed to requirements laid out in the approved and the enacted street use agreement. I personally want to thank the resident for expressing their concerns. And as the sitting mayor, I personally accept full responsibility for this unintended oversight. As such, I have reached out to the town attorney earlier this evening, Mr. Ken Sayer, and he is in the process of reaching out to Swan's attorney, Mr. Mike Funk, to try and get this whole issue resolved this week. He's trying to set up a meeting this week with their attorney so that everyone is in compliance with the street use agreement, period. Second thing I want to talk about real quick is several weeks ago, I received a correspondence from the principal at Shipley Elementary School. And I forget the gentleman's position there, not the principal. Anyway, another official at the elementary school. And what they are interested in is restarting a program similar to Partners in Education, but it's actually a business partners with the school. I asked Patty to represent Harpers Ferry and myself at the meeting. She attended a meeting last week after one postponement because of the ice storm. She's attended this planning meeting. I believe that there will be others scheduled. They will be in the process of putting together a needs list of what they would like to have community business partners assist the education program. So Patty is running that for us. She has also suggested, and I think it's a wonderful idea, that we try to do something similar with the middle school, which is even closer than the elementary school. Patty does have some experience with Shipley. Her son is sitting next to her, and Patty told me a couple stories where she would go there and read to the kids and those kinds of things. So this is not exactly a partner in education. It's business partners that they are trying to get various businesses and government entities to take ownership in our children. So Patty, I want to thank you for representing us and taking that on. Secondly, I received a couple calls and finally hooked up with Mr. Tim Sadowski. Tim is the Department of Highways, West Virginia DOH official. He's been dealing with Harpers Ferry's infrastructure, Department of Highways issues for several years, and I know Tim real well. He called me last week. I put out a note to the council, and Christian and Storm came to the office and listened in on the conversation I had with Tim, that he wanted to talk to me about an issue in Harpers Ferry. I was thinking that it had to do with the High Street Improvement Project, where, if you recall, we had the three options. One would basically leave Lower Town High Street kind of the way it is, spruce it up a little bit. Not much money involved, maybe $60,000, $70,000, whatever that was, I forget. The other second option, if you recall, was to move High Street 2 feet toward National Park Service land. And then the third option was to 1 lane. I thought that that's why Tim was calling, but that wasn't I surprised. That was not the reason that he was calling. The reason he was calling is that the Secretary of Transportation, who also serves as the Commissioner of Highways for West Virginia, Jimmy Wriston, W-R-I-S-T-E-N, Jimmy Wriston evidently summoned DOH officials to his office and basically said that he wants a multimodal assessment done of High Street, Washington Street through Harpers Ferry and Bolivar. What he wants is a total assessment starting at the light by the visitor center on Washington, traveling Washington through Bolivar, entering Harpers Ferry, Washington, going to Church Street, turning into High, go down to the stop sign, turn right on Shenandoah, go back out 340. So he wants the 340 loop through Bolivar and Harpers Ferry. He wants a multimodal assessment done of that. And he wants the preliminary assessment completed by mid-March. So when Tim Sadowski called me, he was briefing me and he said, I told him I thought that this was about the High Street, and he, explained to us what that was about. And I told him that we will put High Street on hold, and we will see what develops on their study, that they want to get the initial thing back to the secretary. This is going to involve both vehicular and pedestrian access from light to all the way through Harpers Ferry and Bolivar. Christian, am I leaving anything out on that conversation? Nope. Okay. So that's all I know right now, but as that develops, I think it's a great thing that the Secretary of Secretary of Transportation and the DOH Commissioner has said he wants this assessment done, and he wants it done, very quickly. The other thing, the next item I want to briefly mention is the water distribution project. Bring all of you up to date on where we are. It has been a hectic last 6 days, I think. Bring everybody up to speed on this massive project. The history of this thing we know dates way back to 2011, maybe. I forget. Laura would know the date on that. I forget, somewhere around there, where the original project consisted of the water plant and the distribution system, which are the pipes that carry the water from the water towers to the houses. And that original estimate back, 11 years or so ago, was a little over $6 million for both of those projects. We know that a lawsuit ensued that held things up for years. When that lawsuit was completed, the originally approved $6.5 million that we ended up getting a loan from the U.S. Department of Agriculture could only cover the water plant. It could not do both of them. And the estimate just for the distribution part of it is now $9.9 million just for that. So with that information, what we did is that we pursued several angles with Senator Capito and Senator Manchin regarding CDS, which stands for Congressionally Directed Spending. It's the old, what do we call that? Earmark, the old earmark, Jerry. They've got kinder language now. And we spent a lot of time developing those applications and going back and forth, submitting those kinds of things, and we ended up getting zero. As you know, then I pursued very vigorously with our county commission and submitted an awful lot of documents to get partial funding from our county commission through their federal government allocation of ARPA monies, which they received, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 to $13 million. I believe we were the only municipality that applied for ARPA monies. The rest of the monies applications to the county commission were done by county offices, et cetera. Debbie and I went, I forget when it was, Debbie, in October, I think, somewhere around there, and we appeared. Jerry was there. I don't know if Christian, if you were there, I forget, and appeared before the county commission and gave testimony to our need. Yeah, Christian was there. Thank you for that. And I thought we had a good stead on that for $800,000, but wasn't I shocked when we got zero? And I got a form letter basically saying that we did not meet the requirements of the ARPA. I then sent the requirements as laid out with the U.S. Treasury Department and the congressional record, where it says these are the requirements that you must abide by. We met every single requirement. I then wrote a letter of appeal to the county commission for them to reassess. And that was done back in November. And I might add that I have yet to hear from the county commission. Not one single county commissioner had the courtesy to contact one of its mayors in its one of its municipalities to at least reach out and say whatever. That never occurred. And I am appalled at that. And so should you be. Anyway, that was very, very disappointing. So where did we go from there? We then reached out to West Virginia Water Development Authority, WDA, that's headed up by Director Marie Prezioso. We had been working very, very hard through the WDA applying for grant money, and this is grant, not loan. We had a very well planned, thought out submission through assistance from our engineers, from our accounting firm, and from Region 9, and of course, Debbie to my left. Put this great package together. We got approval from what's called IJDC, which stands for Infrastructure and Jobs Development Council. IJDC is a subset of WDA, Water Development Authority. They all fall under Director Prezioso. We went and our application and everything got to IJDC. They approved and recommended approval for $4.9 million. That then went to the WDA. And then we finally received information 9 days ago. Yeah, somewhere that our $4.9 million originally approved by IJDC was reduced to $2.475 million. So then what we had to do, we had 4 days to put together a reduction in our $4.9 million down to $2.475. Our engineers scrambled along with our accounting firms, trying to reduce the scope of it to a manageable amount. And then we met the deadline. We submitted it Friday afternoon, and it had to be in by Friday. That now goes back to IJDC. They will now review this scope of work, and then it will hopefully pass muster there and then go to WDA for their approval. I believe that the reason that we were cut, every single municipality that submitted that got to the WDA, they were cut by 50% or more. Ours, Harpers Ferry, I think there were 15 submissions throughout the state. Ours was cut the least. So I feel pretty good about that. So now it's just a waiting game. Now our next move, and Debbie is gathering the information. We now have a window open for additional CDS, congressional directed spending requests to go with both Capito and Manchin. We're going to be doing the same drill with them regarding the distribution project. So that's a lot going on with that, but that lets you know what I know right now. And I a little disappointed that, obviously disappointed with our county commission. A little disappointed that we were cut from 4.9 to 2.4. But I feel good from the standpoint of where we are compared to all the other municipalities that submitted through the WDA. So as we develop additional intelligence from WDA where we are, I'll let each of you know as soon as possible. Other thing I wanted to mention was I received a request from the EPTA, the Eastern Panhandle Transit Authority. Let me just read. This is a sample letter that they are requesting Harpers Ferry assistance. This letter would go with my signature and go to Secretary Pete Buttigieg of he's the Secretary of Transportation for Biden. And I think this will kind of let you know what EPTA has asked her. Let me just read this one paragraph, and it says, "Dear Secretary, blah, blah, blah. I write on behalf of Harpers Ferry to convey our strong support for the West Virginia Department of Transportation Division of Highway application for U.S. Department of Transportation, RAISE, all caps, grant funding for the Eastern Panhandle Rural Multimodal Transit Center project in downtown Martinsburg, which will be owned and operated by the Eastern Panhandle EPTA. This project will improve access to safe and reliable transit service, provide sustainable transportation choices, and improve the quality of life and economy within our community. I encourage you to give this your highest blah, blah, blah." So that's and then they also want me to put in a little paragraph or so about Harpers Ferry and how we fit into all this. I plan to do that and be a signatory to this. If any of you have an objection to that or want some additional information, see me privately. I don't want to take up time in this meeting since this is not an action agenda item, it's information. But I plan to go forward and support this EPTA on behalf of the town. If you have, any of you council have an issue with that, just let me know. And I think that's all I had. Let me just check real quick here. Yeah, I think that's all I had. I think, Chris, you wanted us to make a comment?
I have one quick announcement regarding trails. As you all know, Harpers Ferry and Bolivar have a partnership as a unified community in the Appalachian Trail Community Program, the coalition of towns up and down the 14 states of the AT corridor. Our last official representative in the program, James Smile, resigned a couple years ago due to new work and family commitments. I had been filling in on AT community Zoom meetings and carrying concerns back to our Trails and Town Steering Committee. I'm happy to report that after a recent call for a new volunteer, we received a prompt response from a well-qualified person. Lynn Widmeyer, although not a resident of Harpers Ferry or Bolivar, lives on a farm nearby the towns. She's served as a Jefferson County Commissioner, has been active in our communities in many ways and has been an active volunteer at ATC's Visitor Center here in Harpers Ferry. As a commissioner, she spearheaded an exploration of potential trail connections in the county that served as an impetus to our developing Armory Canal Trail here in Harpers Ferry. We're delighted to have Lynn serve as our town's new AT community representative, and we look forward to her help finding ways the trail, our two towns, and ATC can all benefit from cross-promotion and mutual support.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Any other council member have a announcement or anything? Okay. Okay, agenda item number 2, approval of minutes. You have 2 sets of minutes before you. You have the November 14 and January 9. Let's take the November 14 first. Any additions, deletions, corrections to November 14 minutes? Motion to approve. I have a motion from Christian. I have a second on the motion from Chris. Discussion on the motion to approve November 14. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to approve? Okay, comment. Go ahead, Kevin.
There are a couple of spots in those minutes where information is missing. Verlissa doesn't have that information, and she had asked the council members if they could fill in any of that.
The best person who's not here on that would have been Storm. A lot of us taking notes throughout the meetings.
I think Laurel and I both made comments that Verlissa did fill in information that we had, but I
My
did.
comment was on the other minutes, not on the November minutes.
Okay.
And
I think you had previously received comments from Laurel about the November 14th. Yeah.
oh, really?
It's just a
And-
summary.
Okay, I didn't remember that. Okay.
All right,
So
what do we-
the information that's missing is not really critical. It concerns reports, not motions. So
It was a big.
Okay.
And I'll continue to I'll try to find time to go through the recording too, see if I can fill in any more spots. And then if I can, I'll send an email out to everybody.
okay. And I just received the audio file for that meeting. I didn't have it. Of course, I wasn't here. So I'll try to listen to it as well.
Okay, so I think we already voted.
Yep.
I think the hands are still up, aren't they? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, that was a unanimous 6-0, Kevin. Okay, let's turn to the January 9, 2023 minutes. Suggestions, changes, Chris?
I had-
By the way, everybody, you got the microphones in front of you. In order for that to be picked up, you kind of got to speak directly into it.
I had one very minor correction that on the mayor's announcements, Clark Dixon was a resident of Ranson, not Bolivar.
Thank you.
Any other on January 9? Motion to approve from Chris, and we have a second from Jerry. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve? Thank you. Kevin, 6-0 unanimous. Debbie, go ahead and sit up there by Christian.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Town Council. The financial reports that you have this evening are for the end of December 2022 or 50% of fiscal 23. In the general fund, our targeted operating income is $1,056,547. Therefore, the income as of December of $612,420 represents 60% of the operating income for the year. Our operating expenses are 49% budgeted for the year. At the end of February, Budget and Finance will review a revision proposed for fiscal 23 that will come forward in next month's town council meeting for approval. This will reset our income to reflect the increased pace that is shown here and adjust to expenses that we are aware of to finish out the fiscal year. We will also be preparing and possibly having that meeting, the proposed fiscal 24 budget. Please make sure as council members that you set aside April 18th. That's the third Tuesday in April. That is a required meeting that we must have. We must have a quorum where we will lay the levy. For the waterworks, the overall revenue received through December represents 53% of the projected income. This includes the contribution of ARPA money for Elks Run. If we remove that from the income, our overall operating income still remains at 53%. So that's a good sign. And for operating expenses, with the extraction of the Elk Run contracted work, we're at 54% for the year. In March, I'm going to work with Steve, our Public Works Administrator, to revise our current year budget to reflect adjustments in the expenses for the balance of the fiscal year that now, since we've completed construction of the plant and we're starting to realize a new normal operating formula that will incorporate into the budget to project the rest of the year. And then we'll also look to prepare fiscal 24, which will probably come to you in April or May. Any questions on the financials?
I move to approve the financials for both the town and waterworks for through fiscal year December 2022.
Have a second on the motion, second from Chris. Any discussion on the motion to approve the financials? All those in favor of the motion to approve financials? Unanimous.
All right, and then you have your list of purchases. Any questions on those? The invoice copies are here if anybody has any questions on that.
Yes, can you? I guess I could look at the invoices, but I just wondered, there were 2 invoices for the propane, is that
The
right?
propane, yeah. Steve and I've been in discussions about this. My understanding is that, originally the construction workers were in there and, they wanted the room to be warmer while they were working. So that's kind of what we thought was going on. Now that time has passed and we're still consuming more propane than we projected. What it appears is that there are, with the new heaters that were installed in the plant, they're working to figure out a formulation that is new to us, that they're going to have to try to minimize, how much propane is used. So where these are and the types of heaters that they are is not, and how much we're depending on them is not the way that it was, from what I understand, in the old plant. And so this is something that we're going to have to deal with on an ongoing basis. He's talking about different ways to circulate the warmth so that it can even it out and things like that. I know he's aware of it. He's watching everyone. I make him personally approve them. So
I see. Thank you.
Yeah. And maybe he can talk in that more when he gets there, but it kind of is what it is right now. We've just got to figure out how to manage it going forward. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on the threshold? Okay,
I move to approve the submitted invoices for payment.
okay, I have a second on the motion, second from Chris. Discussion on the motion to approve. All those in favor? 6 unanimous, thank you. Okay. Thanks, Debbie. Chief?
Good evening, council. Just want to give the report for the month of January 2023. We had 0 accidents, 3 call-outs, 11 assists, 135 citations, and 125 incidents for the month. I continue to meet with the mayor weekly to discuss our concerns and issues that we're trying to continue to move the department in a positive and productive way. Just completed a walk through the middle school, and hopefully we'll be able to do one with the elementary school as well. So things are going well.
Thanks. The issue with the schools, obviously, I've talked about it before, that I am insistent that our officers become familiar. God forbid that we have an active shooter in the school. So I have insisted that the officers become familiar with the inside of the schools. And the chief has extended it not only from the middle school, he also is going to be sending over the officers along with and escorted with Corporal Hockman from the Sheriff's Department, who that's his basic jurisdiction. And that the two agencies work hand in hand to, you're never going to prevent these things, but to be better prepared, God forbid that we have an active shooter in one of our school systems, one of our schools that we have. I appreciate the cooperation from John. I've been on him on this, and I know that he feels that I've been pushing him, but it's all for a good cause, and he understands that. And I just really appreciate, John, your cooperation on that. John, if you would spend a minute or two and let everybody know what's going on. You got a request from a resident to burn, okay? So just, kind of go about that. And then you're getting 2 requests for vehicle shows or something. What's that all about, Chief?
Yes, sir. So we had a request for to burn some shrubbery, trees, branches off of Putnam Street. It seems to be, it's going to be a large fire that they want to have. I kind of looked into it. They also spoke to the fire department. We do have a no ban for the town. So, I'm not in favor of allowing this burn to take place at this current time. Especially it's still a lot of dry brush and stuff out there and debris that we need to be concerned about with that issue. Any questions about that?
And the vehicle, what's going on with these shows or something? You gotten a request?
So I've also received 2 requests. I just found out about one this evening for car shows that they're wanting to utilize our streets for about an hour during the weekend. I don't remember the date. I know it's in April.
Was in June,
June,
mid-June,
mid
well, June 19th.
Juneteenth day, right? And then I haven't fulfilled or fully gotten the full information on the second request. It was just briefed about it shortly. I haven't seen any emails on it yet, but it went through the main office upstairs.
Good.
So I spoke to the Park Service about that as well. They weren't in favor of the first show, and they didn't want things to get out of hand. And here we have somebody else putting a second request in for another car show. So I spoke to the superintendent about that, and Chief Ryan, and they expressed their concerns as well. I will continue to look into it and check on this second request. And I will probably speak to the mayor on Thursday when we meet, and which direction I'm going to go with that.
Thanks. Any questions for the chief? Chris?
That's reminding me that I believe it was in January. It looked like there was an impromptu car show down in the park. Was that, are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
No, sir. Not all requests come to me. Sometimes they just show up and we have to move them along. But I have received 2, so I don't know the one that you're inquiring about.
I noticed a lot of tickets after.
Oh, yeah, we will take it for that because there's no parking in that area.
Even in January, things can be pretty busy on a weekend down there along Shenandoah and High Street. And I can only imagine in June what it would be like.
And the other concern that I have is the tourism with the foot traffic, with having those vehicles there and cars moving around. People don't always pay attention. It's not like we're going to shut the street off. We're going to have them parked along the street. So that is another concern of mine, that the pedestrians that are walking around that don't always pay attention, are taking pictures and on their cell phone and all, may step out in front of a vehicle that's in motion instead of paying attention to what they're doing.
So are they primarily requesting parking along the streets, or are they also planning a parade or what?
No, just parking. They would like to park there for about an hour, hour and a half.
Hmm.
The first request, like I said, I don't know much about the second request. And that was one of the superintendent's concerns that, once this starts, it's going to become an issue where they're going to be wanting that request to be granted every time they want to have a show or whatever.
Yeah, I'd also like to fully support your stand on the burning of strawberry bushes. I would think there are other ways of eliminating them, and with the brush as dry as it is and the proximity to residential property, it could easily get out of hand.
Right, and they've cut down a lot of trees that she wanted yeah, a lot of wood there that she's wanting, instead of hauling it away or donating it to a mulch plant or something where they'll come and pick it up. I just feel like it's just too dry right now, and things could really take off if the wind got up.
Thank you, John. Any other questions for Chief? Okay, thank you, John. Next item of business is ordinance compliance. You got the reporters. Any questions that you want me to relay to Kevin? By the way, Kevin is in the office every Wednesday. He usually gets there around 8:45. And he spends probably his first hour or so working very closely with Patty on all of the permits, and they go over all of the permits and where he should be going and on all those kinds of things. If any of you want to meet with Kevin about any issue, feel free to come up to the office on any Wednesday after 9 o'clock. And he's usually there until what, Patty, 11, 12? Yeah, somewhere. And then he rides around, and then of course, he's out here on the weekends, and he tries to come out here during other days other than Wednesday. So council, feel free to reach out to Kevin anytime. If you've got any questions about any issues, or you see something that looks extraordinary, bring it to his attention, because he's not full-time. He doesn't work here 40 hours a week, and he could use an extra set of eyes if you see something going on that you think should come to the attention of the code officer. Please get a hold of Kevin. Thanks.
I have before, when I was on council before, we were able to communicate with him by email and send photos. I assume we can still do that.
Okay. So you want it now to communicate?
I mean, I'm just saying, is he still, when he first started out, we communicated by email and he followed up on pictures and things I sent him. Is he still capable? Can we still send him emails?
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
I do that all the time with
Yeah.
email. It's really-
Yep. And it really helps him if you send pictures, because I do it quite often myself, so. Budget and finance, Christian, you can move your
Yep.
microphone over to you.
I got it here anyway. Okay, so the first item, discussion action for Parks and Recreation reallocation of funding in the fiscal year 2023 budget. So this is in regards to the Children's Park rehabilitation. They've been asking us to move some monies from a budget item from from this past year to do the children's park and get that park up to speed. They're going to be taking it from the film festival, and they're not planning on doing that. So let's go. Let's do the motion. Move to approve $2,000 from the 906 Arts and Humanities be approved for expenses to rehabilitate and preserve the town's children's park in place of a film festival.
Have a second on the motion, second from Chris, discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion to approve?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Okay, this is another one from the through Budget and Finance, but we received this information from Parks and Rec. This is regarding Earth Day celebration. And they're going to be doing some activities at the children's park that day. So they move, I moved to approve $200 from the 906 Arts and Humanities for the 2023 Earth Day celebration to be spent to support preservation and rehabilitation of the town's children's park.
You have a second on the motion to approve, second from Jerry. I'm going to give it to Jerry this time, Chris. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Unanimous.
Okay. This one here is, we had discussed this before in town council. We found, this is a police department request for a purchase of a ballistic shield. Apparently, they cost more than we were planning. And so this should take care of this request. This is kind of in conjunction with the mayor was talking about regarding schools. If we have a potential active shooter, this is a piece of equipment that protects the officer from bullets, basically. And so I move to approve up to $2,700 under the police department supplies for the purchase of one ballistic shield.
Second on the motion. Second from Chris. Any discussion? I have discussion. Council, just so you have an understanding of what this item is, this item is a barrier that is carried by officers in an active shooter. The vest that the chief probably has on right now will defeat most handguns. It will not defeat a .22 caliber. It will not defeat a long rifle like an AR-15. The reason that the vest that he wears does not defeat that, because the .22 and the ARs, the velocity of that bullet leaving the weapon is such a high velocity that it goes through the protective garment that the officers wear. So the shield is an item that will defeat an AR-15 and it will defeat .22 caliber. The plan is to have one available for the police department. We have none. Whatever officer is on duty at that time, it will be placed in his or her cruiser. And then when he or she gets off duty, then it's turned to the next one. The closest shield we have is the sheriff department. And we can't always rely that we're going to have a shield to protect our officers. This just makes sense. I realize it's a heavy item from the standpoint of money, but I'm looking at protecting all in case, worst case scenario that we're prepared. So any other discussion on the,
I was
Chris?
also going to add, I did my research online myself and I found, well, first of all, we can protect their head, their legs. They don't, vests aren't there. So it gives them additional protection. They use it a lot of times to break down doors. They like to have, if they have to, there's a hostage situation, they have to break a door down, let's say, they would have the shield and then somebody could bust the door down while they have the shield up, and this protects them if the other person on the other side shoots at them. It's really a valuable piece of equipment. Maybe we won't use it very often here at Harper's Ferry, but if we ever do, we'll at least have this there to protect our officers.
okay, thank you, Christian. Any other discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I think we saw
Jerry?
in Uvalde, one of the reasons that the police claimed they didn't go in
That is
was
true.
that they didn't have shields and protection, and in that type of situation, every second counts, and you can't. $2,700 is really very little to pay for possible saving a life and other lives that would be saved by the officer being able to get into and stop an active shooter.
Thank you for that, Jerry. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay, unanimous, Kevin. Christian, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, this is discussion and action regarding a funding request from the Harpers Ferry Bolivar Historic Town Foundation for $2,500 for repairing the ceiling of the First Zion Church. The church, you've noticed they did a lot of work on the exterior of the church, on the roof particularly, took down a chimney. And now they're beginning to, we're going to work on the front of the church, but one of the things they want to do inside the church is repair the ceiling. The ceiling is going to require work to make it at least look better. There's apparently sheetrock and they have to remove the sheetrock to get at this, what do you call it, board, P-board? B-board And they're gonna hope they can restore that, but with this request will be part of that repair. This is the 2,500. They're doing way more than that, the foundation, and they're doing that through their fundraising. So I move to approve this request from funding from the 2022-23 fiscal year from the Harpers Ferry Bolivar Historic Town Foundation for up to $2,500 for the CN repairs at First Zion Church building.
Second on the motion. Second from Jerry. Discussion on the motion to approve $2,500 for Zion Church. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Unanimous.
And this will be a community center for the town, so this is a public benefit.
Anything else, Christian?
Ooh. I'll be talking later in some other items.
Okay,
Budget and finance is done.
okay, good. What are general report from is Steve online? I can't see.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
okay. So I will give you just some of our operating statistics. These are for the calendar month of January 2023. We finished water that was pumped up to the tanks. We pumped just under 6.4 million gallons. Our operating time, we operated for about 334 hours, or averaging 11 hours per day. Over that time period, that's when the plant was actually making water, shall we say. The Prospect Street tank levels, these are measurements that are taken automatically at midnight. They ranged anywhere from 76% full to 95% full throughout the month of January, and they averaged out at about 87% full. So our finished inventory, we're pretty much hitting, a pretty comfortable level there. We also have, I've mentioned this before in terms of some of our chemical use, our coagulant, that's the chemical that we add, other than chlorine, that's the chemical that we have in the past been adding the greatest amount. We've reduced that down. It averaged to 5 pounds a day. And that was a reduction of approximately 75% compared to what we had been adding in November. So I'm comfortable that we're getting a good handle on the chemical additions. The billing statistics, bills for January that were sent out at the beginning of February. The metered water was 2.7 million gallons. That represented 830 meters, and the total charges for that water amounted to $115,085. Our leak adjustment requests that we've received, they're on hold until we get the tariff, the governing ordinance, and the adjustment policy all kind of reconciled and sorted out. Our plant rebuild status, the primary item that we're waiting to have finished was the installation of the shower, and that's in progress this week. Actually, Eli had made good progress towards that last week. He's anticipating wrapping that up this week. GD&F electrical punch list, that was completed last week, and Alvarez, specifically Eli, is coordinating. He's still working with us to coordinate the air compressor repair. That's scheduled for February 28th. One of our 2 air compressors that has not been functioning. I'd say due really to I'm going to call it a design defect, and that's getting repaired for us, and that's scheduled at the end of the month. The Department of Health and Human Resources violations, that had been lodged against us. All of those have been rescinded with the exception of 3. And those 3 were from March of 2022, as I recall. And they were all they were all related. Those 3 were all related, and they were due to a failure to submit a bacteriological sample along with associated chlorine samples. So we have responses have been submitted to the DHHR to rectify that situation, to sort that all out. And we will be notifying, one of the things we have to do to resolve all that will be to notify customers. So we have a flyer ready to go out in the March bill. And also, I guess, we'll have to post something on our website. And we have prepared that, that notice for the public notice for the website as well. And that's all per DHHR requirements so that we can put those violations behind us. We did repair leaks last week along Spring Street and on Gilbert Street. I have some I would describe them as very rough back of the envelope calculations that suggest to me that what I saw in terms of the change in I'm going to say the drain out of the tanks overnight, very rough calculations would suggest that the leaks that we have are maybe on the order of 15 to say 30 of those size leaks. The number is very crude, very rough, but at least it's not hundreds. So, it's a lot of work to address all of our leaks. And I think the distribution work that Greg mentioned at the beginning of the meeting will hopefully address many of these as well. But again, I think beginning to get at least a rough idea as to, the magnitude of some of the work that we have in front of us with regards to leaks. And then just to follow up on what Laurel's question about the propane and Deb, her response to all that. Yes, what we had a delivery back in beginning of December the 7th, where they filled the tank for us. And then they showed up again on the 26th of January. So that's about 7 weeks later. And the tank was pretty much empty. It's a 1,000-gallon tank. They fill it with 800 gallons. They fill it up to 80%. So we consumed roughly 800 gallons in that 7-week period. They didn't have 800 gallons in the truck. They put in 300 when they arrived on the 26th of January, and then they showed up about a week later on the 7th of February, and they gave us, and they filled it with the rest. So that's why you had two bills, but you basically had over 800 gallons of propane. As Deb indicated, we've got 3, massive new space heaters, and that's what consumes, this propane. We've had a lot of people coming and going with the contractors and the doors open in the cold weather. And I'm going to say kind of a lack of control of the thermostats. I've got all the thermostats turned down. The space that we're heating with all of this is the actual plant space, not the office space. And so we have we've got those thermostats all turned down to what I think is a very reasonable 55 degrees for that space. We're keeping a close eye on that. I mean, weather, we're getting into hopefully out of the cold weather anyhow. But I think that, we'll, as Deb indicated, we're keeping an eye on that. It's an expense that caught us a bit by, surprise, and it's very easy to consume that propane very quickly with those heaters, which are all mounted up. She mentioned a little bit, they're all mounted up by the ceiling. So all the hot air it does a great job heating the hot air up by the ceiling. But at some point, we'll probably be looking at a way to circulate that hot air down to heat the space a little bit more efficiently. But anyhow, that's what I got at this point. Okay. Unless there are any questions?
You
No.
you
Sure.
mentioned replacing, I think, an air compressor. Would that have any effect on the heating?
No, the air compressor is strictly for the a lot of the valves turn on this new system. The control valves are all pneumatically controlled. And so we need the air compressor, and then also it uses the air to purge the filter system as part of some of the cleaning processes, the back, the cleaning of the system. So this is all process air. And we have, as with just about the entire design, it was all designed with a lot of redundancy, two of everything. And so right now, we had one that a modification that had been made to it before it was delivered to us failed. Fortunately, the other one did not. It has the same modification, but the other one has not failed. So we continue to operate with the other one until the manufacturer comes in and repairs both of them for us. Okay.
You said that there's one violation still outstanding. What does that date from?
Okay, so there's actually 3, all right, but they're all one incident. Okay, essentially one incident, one failure to file a required bacteriological sample, and then I guess there were 2 chlorine samples that were supposed to go with it. That dates back to, I believe it was last March. Okay, we had a period of time and we're still within the window to rectify or to clear those up. So we have not missed that window, but it was something that was hanging out there and was, we wanted to get all this cleared up so we don't lose track of it.
So it's primarily reporting.
It was reporting, and with the reporting, we're reported to submit 2 bacteriological samples per month. We had submitted the first one. We didn't submit the second one. That said, we had submitted multiple bacteriological samples for other purposes, other reasons. Okay, same sample, same test being run, but we had not declared it to be our second, perfunctory sample. So we were truly in violation. Okay. However, in terms of the safety of the water, I don't think that we had fallen down in terms of monitoring the safety of our water. It was just, a perfunctory test, and we had not declared one of the other samples to be our second sample.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Steve?
Steve, I have a question.
Okay, Laurel, what's up? Yep.
Could you clarify, as I remember, the temperature in the plant is not only for the comfort of the operators, but also for the chemicals that are there, right? Is that correct?
There is one chemical that will begin to congeal if it gets too cold. However, yeah, so that is true, and that is something that we were keeping an eye on, especially because that where that chemical is situated, it's actually situated very close to the large garage door. So if that door is open and closed in cold weather a lot, that could be problematic. We had set up a few space heaters in there. It's also questionable about what degree, what the lowest temperature is that could sustain. And the concentration that we have it in, I think we'd probably be okay down, to actually probably a little bit below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But you're right, that's, we do have to be aware of the chemicals, and if that particular chemical were to cause a problem in the future, there are band heaters that you can put around the tanks that are electric heaters on a thermostat, where you could actually localize, where you were applying, applying your energy to heat. And so we have not put one of those in at this point, but it is something that, we will keep an eye on, the next winter season.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Steve? Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Laurel?
Okay, I want to begin by thanking the Water Commission by the work for the work they did in 2022. We have Mac McCarty, Gino Cisco, and Donnie Hampshire, and they are all they attend meetings. They contribute their time. Is totally volunteer. During the year, we due to all the many things going on at the plant, the Water Commission volunteered to take care of the lead and copper sampling for 20 customers. We knocked on doors to obtain volunteers to contribute water samples for that lead and copper sampling. We worked closely with the Department of Environmental Sciences to make sure that our samples that our customers did satisfy the requirements. We collected the samples, we delivered the results, and they were all the results were good. So I want to thank them for all their work and their dedication to our water plant and our water system. I want to mention there are 3 sources of water for our water plant. That is the Elk Run, which is a creek really, and there is a spring nearby, very close to the Elk Run, and there is the Potomac River. And so we always have to be ready to, if one of them becomes contaminated in any way, we have to be ready to switch on to the others. And a recent example of that is there was a derailment in, East Palestine, Ohio, and the river and the Ohio River was affected by that. And so everybody downstream, including Huntington, West Virginia, is monitoring Ohio River to make sure that they don't get any chemicals come into their plant. In fact, they built emergency. They built a pipeline because Huntington is on 2 rivers, the Ohio and another one called the Guyandotte, although I'm probably mispronouncing it. They built a half-a-mile pipe over to the Guyandotte River so they would have another intake in case they monitor the Ohio River and it tells them you don't want that water. So they're ready for that. So my point is that in our system, we have a spring. It is connected now, but it needs to be, it's connected and it is bringing water into our intake. But because of a lot of air in the line, it's not getting the full flow of water that it could be getting. And so there are some valves that need to be bought and screwed on to this pipe in various ways, and then we will get the full amount of water. Truly, we don't know how much water is being contributed by it because we don't have a flow meter on that pipe. If we did put a flow meter on, we would know for both of them how much each one. It used to be said that Elk Run was giving us 60% of our water and the spring gave us 40% of our water that went into our intake. But nobody's sure what that correct number is right now. So I just want to mention that is something we'll be talking about again at our Water Commission meeting this week. And the last item is our leak adjustment policy. Everybody got a copy of that. I'm not going to ask for a vote today because there's several things we need to do, but it's good for you to have this because you know that the Water Commission did vote on this. This is going to be our leak adjustment policy. It's being changed for 2 reasons. One is we are raising the the fee or the rate that we charge for excess water in the case of a leak adjustment that a customer asks us for. So that rate is being changed, not very much, really. I think it's going up about 25%, which is only from 60 to 86 cents per 1,000 gallons. But the other change is because the PSC itself has changed their regulations about how to figure that. And they have said that, first of all, if a customer asks for a rate, an adjustment to their bill, first of all, the amount of the bill the usage in the bill would have to be more than double their historical usage, which would be their 12-month average. So if the usage was not above double their historical usage, then they would not be given an adjustment on their bill. So if it is above double the historic average, then we would, there's a couple other things that you see there that they have to provide, but we would adjust it and we would bill them for double the historical average at the regular rate. And then the leak adjustment rate would be applied to any water that was used over that. And so those are both the changes. The fact that the double historical usage is now an important part of it. And also the amount for that's charged for over the double the usage. So we will be sending the particulars on that to the Ordinance Review Committee, because we are going to follow the steps that the PSC has set out, which includes providing justification for the rate increase, advertising this. We don't have to advertise our entire tariff. We're going to advertise the part that deals with the leak adjustment. And there's some wording in there that needs to be changed. So I just want to notify you, if you're on the Ordinance Review Committee, that we will send that to you within the next week. Probably, we'll probably discuss it some more at the meeting on Wednesday. All right, any questions? Yes.
Well, Laurel, I did notice that leak adjustment is on the agenda, and I remember reading it and it sounded very reasonable, but there's still some playing with words that you all have to do.
No, this is correct. It's just that we have to get our tariff, which has the leak adjustment rate on it. We have to get it up to date to agree with to this policy. And then I would think we'll just pass it all together.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
sure.
Any other questions for Laurel? Thanks, Laurel. Who's going to handle the TDNF engineers report? You got that before you. I think Steve covered a lot of it. Laurel, do you have anything you want to add?
I have it here. So hang on a second. Here it is.
I don't know if Steve's online.
I have the engineer's report from Chris Eckenrode. He reports that the Alvarez is working on their final punch list based on the site list, the site visit that GDF did on January the 17th. And what's mentioned in here are several of the things that Steve mentioned that are being done: finishing the bathroom, adding pipe anchors to copper piping around the office door, sealing the penetration through the wall from the chlorine gas room to the main plant room, installing a motor guard shaft. And they're demobilizing and Alvarez is taking their stuff away as they're clearing the space that they were using there.
Steve's back.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
Yeah, Steve, I don't know if you had anything in addition to what Laurel just discussed regarding Alvarez's engineer report. I'm sorry, GDNF's.
Yep, no, I think that's, everything that I don't have that right here in front of me, but everything that she mentioned is, quite honestly, Eli has his own additional punch list, which is probably a little bit more extensive. It's all inclusive of the GDNF. But he's got a few other things. He is patching that cement, that little piece of cement floor that was cracked, that was being patched last week. So yeah, I know that Eli is working off of off of that punch list to get everything done.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Well,
Laurel, do you have anything else?
the last thing on his report is that Harpers Ferry, GDNF and Region 9 had a conference call to discuss and select the most crucial items in the distribution system that they'd like to repair. That's already been discussed in this meeting. And but he says GDNF will create that engineering summary and cost estimate. And there's a follow-up meeting on February the 6th, which is apparently already happened too. So GDNF is handling those items as well for looking at our distribution system.
Okay. Thank
That's
you.
all.
Debbie, do you have the change order and
Okay, so you should have change order number 3. This is the final change order for the project. This essentially resets the dates of closing out the project, officially closing as of January 31, and the pay application is the final pay application. So even though Eli's there doing some work, the contracting is, and the project itself is considered closed as of January 1, and that is what this documents. So in order for us to close out the final payment, you have to approve this change order, acknowledging that the project is closed. Or you would,
I can read it. Okay. Yeah, right here. I move to approve change order number 3 as presented.
second on the motion? Second from Chris. Discussion on the motion to approve change orders number 3 is presented. All those in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Debbie?
all right, the next thing is resolution number 23. As far as I'm aware, this will be the final resolution. Resolution 23, the town of Harpers Ferry approving invoices relating to the construction and other services for the water project and authorizing payment thereof. Whereas the town of Harpers Ferry has reviewed the invoices attached here too and incorporated herein by reference in relation to the construction of the water project funded by the United States Department of Agriculture, and finds as follows: that none of the items for which payment is proposed have been requested from another source, that each item for which the payment is proposed to be paid is or was necessary in connection with the project and constitutes a cost of the project, that each of such costs has been otherwise properly incurred, that payment for each of the items proposed is due and owing. Now therefore be it resolved by the town council of Harpers Ferry that the payment of the attached invoices as summarized below are hereby authorized and directed. Gwen Dobson and Foreman, $1,759.63. Alvarez Contractors Incorporated, $135,510.99. Region 9 Planning and Development Council, $5,000 for the remainder of the work that they did to close out the project. This totals $142,270.62, adopted by the Town Council of Harpers Ferry in a meeting on the 13th day of February, 2023.
I move to approve for payment resolution number 3 and pay
23.
23, pay application number 22 as presented.
Second on the motion to approve. Second from Chris. Any discussion on the motion to approve resolution number 2, 3? All those in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Debbie, talk about the
The bond.
zero interest bond from 1996.
actually from 86.
Like 86.
We have a couple of very old bonds that are coming to fruition here at the end, but this one was a 0% interest bond. And so every year we're contacted by the bond commission if there's any excess pay from interest and reserve calculations that they do that comes back to us. And this particular one has a reserve amount. It's coming. We just have about 12 payments left on it. And part of what we have to do with the bonds that we take through any of these commissions to the USDA is that we build up a reserve as part of our payments until a certain percentages of the total bond value is achieved. So we have enough in the reserve right now that if we stop making the payments, which are $329.66 a month, the reserve will just pay off the rest of the payments. And so we talked with Cox Holiday about this, and the recommendation is that we do advise the bond council that we would like to stop payment on that now and allow the reserve to just pay off what is left. And that frees up a couple $100 in our budget. And then we're going to take a look at the ones coming forward in the next couple of years and see if there's anything we should do there.
Thank you, Debbie.
So I move to approve request final payments for municipal bond 86B to be made from the reserve held by the West Virginia Bond Commission beginning with March 2023 payments.
We have a second on the motion. Second from Chris. Discussion on a motion to approve municipal bond 86B using the reserve to complete the obligation to that bond. All those in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Okay, I think that does that. Planning Commission, Chris, Planning Commission has been very active the past month or so. The comprehensive plan work is starting to heat up with WVU under Chris's leadership. So bring us up to date and whatever else you got, Chris.
Okay, I typed it out so I wouldn't forget anything. At our regular January meeting, the Planning Commission re-elected me as president and Paul Mayhew as secretary. And we also elected Zach Morse as vice president. We're all pleased at Zach's willingness to serve in this capacity. Thank you, Zach. The Planning Commission met with our WVU Land Clinic consultants on January 31st to continue work on the Harpers Ferry Comprehensive Plan. Our consultants participated via Zoom. In addition to all Planning Commission members, we had 3 members of the council in addition to myself, plus 2 citizens who represented organizations. We had a lively discussion about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to our town, stakeholders, and how to input from those how input from those stakeholders will be solicited, a review of the 2013 comprehensive plan and whether major goals are still seen as relevant and important for the update. During this discussion, it was determined that though some major changes have occurred in town affecting the 2013 goals, for example, our new water plant, the implementation of our parking policies and fees, and several other major things. Most or all of the 2013 goals were deemed still important and merit review. We also added 2 or 3 new concerns that were not addressed in the old plan, for instance, climate change and broadband. Our next comprehensive planning meeting with our consultants will be at 6 p.m. Thursday, April 6th. Although the commission will also be working on some stakeholder work at our regular February meeting next week. I also wanted to provide an update on the progress of the permitting and flow chart committee, whose work was spearheaded by the mayor's concerns and the work of the Planning Commission last year. This ad hoc committee met perhaps for the last time on January 12th, finalizing its edits to the permit process flow charts. Those changes were then sent to the town clerk, who has been unable to revise the drafts due to some software licensing issues that I believe are now resolved. And once Verlissa completes those revisions, my hope is to circulate the flow charts to the council the OCO and the office staff, the BZA, the Planning Commission, and HLC for review. Unless we hear back with concerns or suggestions for more revisions, my intent is to submit the flow charts to the town council for adoption as town policy and tools to be used by all of us involved in the permitting process in town, as well as to be available to applicants to help them better understand our process. Along with this work, the committee developed a list of about 8 or 9 issues that we considered weaknesses in our processes or issues that are inadequately addressed in our zoning ordinances. We'll be sending those out to various commissions and individuals to start work on, several of them going to the Planning Commission. At some time in the future, expect to see some of those at council meetings to adopt as policies or perhaps to consider as amendments to town code. And that is it from the Planning Commission, unless anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Chris. Christian, you going to handle landmarks or?
Yeah, I'll handle that. Well, there was a
Very good.
presentation of the tree committee.
committee.
Um,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Christie's here.
Who's handling the
Christie.
tree committee annual report? You have that in your folder from Christie.
I've read it.
I think we sent you the report.
Yeah, we have it, Christie.
If you have any questions, I'll get the answer.
Hearing none. Thank you, Christie.
I would like to thank the tree committee, which perhaps soon will be a commission. We're going to be talking about that soon. But the members have been obviously working very hard on lots of projects, and I'd like to thank them for their time and expertise.
Here.
Especially Christie, she's the only original member left on the tree committee from 15 years ago now.
Long.
Yeah.
He's the oak of the the oak tree.
She's been the backbone
Or the
of
redwood.
it. So.
By the way, I've noticed that Antietam doing a lot of work through town. It's good to see. Taking down, especially these dead trees and branches.
Yeah. I wish our utilities company would pay
I noticed
attention
it.
to the tree that is leaning on the property adjacent to my property. I don't know how many people have
noticed
stopped and said, you know, there's a tree on your, and it's not on our property, and
No,
it's just a matter of time before it brings the lines down. So,
Cable on Black.
I already spoke to the power company and it is not their
I know,
line, so.
And I sent the email to that, who I thought property owner was, but never heard back.
yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, he did.
Christian, you got
Yeah,
anything
historic
from landmarks?
landmarks. Yeah, I have some comments. Historic Landmarks met in January on January 16th. And one of the things we talked about was our Weaver Boundary Street Wayside sign, which Guy Hammer, who's not here, he asked me to do the report, found has 3 bids. That has since was brought before the Historic Landmarks Commission, but it was the Historic Landmarks Commission, or I think it's the Historic Landmarks Commission. We're just gonna, in front of Budget and Finance, and we're just gonna put that particular bidding on hold for now. The welcome letter, here it is. You're gonna get this if you're a resident of Harper's Ferry, you're gonna get this letter, hopefully, in the next, what do you think, a week or 2? Yeah. And this letter is our welcome letter to, and we wanted to send it to everybody this time. This goes to all residents as well as commercial property owners in the town. Talking about the importance of keeping your property up historically and why it's important. And so about a week or 2 later will be another document from Historic Landmarks Commission, and that also deals with an important issue it's a questionnaire asking you about more information about your properties. And we're looking for, there's a form to fill out. We ask you fill it out. I believe it's going to be dropped off at Town Hall. I think that was our procedure. If you have photos, you have any kind of documentation on your home, we would like to incorporate that in our database so that we can keep a history of particularly the contributing structures in our community. Let's see. Also, the Historic Landmarks is still working on what we call Appendix A, and that's the standards for the historic structures in Harpers Ferry. It's been well over a decade since it was last done. We've been looking at it for, oh my gosh, seems like forever. We're still going through it. We're going through our final review here in the next month or so. And then we are going to ask for input from the before it goes to Town Council for approval. We're going to have the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Planning Commission asking for their input, the Ordinance Compliance Officer. Town Council, though I'm not sure if it has to go through Ordinance Review Committee. I don't know.
It's, what kind of document
It's
is
the
it? Is it
Appendix A for,
the actual Appendix A to Part 13?
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Whew, long way to go. So, so that's where Historic Landmarks is. I think I covered everything. Oh, yes, and Historic Landmarks is put in for funding. We approved the recommendation for a purchase and professional restoration of our historic radial wave street fixtures, our post office sconces, and the hanging Columbia street light. We're also we're asking for funds for filling in the gaps in our street lighting system. The current PIMCO lighting fixtures that we're currently using are no longer being manufactured. So we're going to have to go out and potentially purchase some through either eBay or surrounding communities in West Virginia or Maryland, Virginia that may be retiring their systems. Matter of fact, I know of a town already or a community, a Summit Point, that's looking to remove some of their lights. And they would definitely be the right kind of lights for Harpers Ferry. So that's where we're at.
Any questions for Christian? Kevin, Ordinance Review Committee, you've got 3 items.
Okay. First one up. So the first ordinance we have on the agenda for consideration tonight is ordinance number 2023-01. An ordinance to amend section 133.07 of the codified ordinances of Harpers Ferry to comply with West Virginia Code. The Planning Commission had requested this change. Actually, it came at the request of the comprehensive plan consultants, I believe, right?
Correct.
One sentence in that section of the ordinances needs to be removed in order to comply with West Virginia Code. And that sentence is that the Planning Commission has the power, authority, and duty to make recommendations to the Board of Zoning Appeals, which it does not.
It doesn't.
Does not.
Right.
Okay,
Who's going to do the motion? You want me to do it or
I can do it.
go ahead?
I motion to approve first reading for approval of ordinance 2023-01 Planning Commission.
have a second on the motion to approve. Have a second from Jerry. Discussion on the motion to approve. All those in favor of the motion to approve first reading? Unanimous.
Okay. The second ordinance is ordinance number 2023-02, an ordinance to amend and reenact Article 1104 of the codified ordinances, renaming the tree committee and establishing the tree commission's role as a free and separate deliberative body of town government. And I gave some background about this at previous meetings. But in 2008, when I drafted the tree conservation ordinance, the original intent was for the tree commission to be a separate body from all the other commissions of the town. There was some opposition to establishing a tree committee at that time. And the compromise was to place the tree committee under the umbrella of the planning commission, which really didn't make sense. But it was the only way that we could get the ordinance approved at that time. And it also had a sunset clause, and we had to renew the ordinance every year for about 5 years. And finally, we got that removed. But now I believe it's time to remove the tree committee from under the umbrella of the planning commission, because it does function as its own separate body. And the tree committee has requested this as well. The planning commission has recommended to approve it. And so that's the, oh, and the tree committee then, since it will no longer be under the umbrella of the planning commission, will be renamed tree commission.
Great.
We also kept a member of the planning commission designated to serve on the tree committee.
Right.
Now tree commission.
You're gonna make it.
Okay, so I motion to approve first reading for approval of ordinance 2023-02 tree conservation.
Second on the motion to approve. Second from Chris, discussion on the motion to approve. All those in favor of the motion to approve? Unanimous.
Okay, and the third ordinance tonight is ordinance 2023-03. An ordinance amending Article 140 of the codified ordinances by increasing the number of members on the Parks and Recreation Commission. This was a request directly from the Parks and Recreation Commission to increase the membership from 3 members to 5 members. And you'll notice in 140.02, it also, since there are 5 members now and not 3 members who would expire 1 each year, now we would have more than 1 person expiring each year for 2 out of the 3-year cycle. So we deleted part of the language that was already there in that ordinance, or is already there, and replaced it with the members of the commission serve terms of 3 years, staggered and divided as equally as possible among terms. After we approve this ordinance, when we get to the point of appointing 2 new members to the Parks and Recreation Commission, we will have to determine at that time when their expiry dates will be. The other 3 members that already serve on the commission would, their terms would not change.
Well, we hope none of the members expire, because Patty has a hard enough time getting them as is.
I thought it was a permanent position.
It sort of has been.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. So I motion to approve first reading for approval of ordinance 2023-03 Parks and Recreation Commission.
Second on the motion. Second from Laurel. Discussion on the motion to approve. All those in favor of the motion to approve? Unanimous. Anything else, Kevin?
That's all.
Okay. Parking. Christian?
Yes. Okay, and the Parking Commission, we have been working hard on making a change to our parking policy for this coming year. This would be starting in March 1st. We're looking at parking policy for just the residential zone of Harpers Ferry. And this would pertain to short-term rentals and bed and breakfasts in this residential zone. We've had issues with the old program that we had, what was for residents, it was used for businesses, and it really wasn't appropriate. It wasn't really regulating the parking properly, particularly on Washington Street. And we have two mandates, we feel, in the parking commission, and that is managing the parking in the town for both residents and visitors, but also the revenue aspect of it as well, to make sure we properly do that. This particular change should be revenue neutral. We're going to get some extra fees coming in. We're going to lose a little bit on the parking itself. And I'll just go over the policy briefly as possible. This is version number 6. So we've had a lot of back and forth on this, and we got input from a lot of people on this to make this a pretty good policy, I think. What this will do, well, let's see. So residential guest parking passes issued by the town may not be used for business guest parking by B&Bs and short-term rentals. So they can't use their guest passes. They can have a guest pass. Like my house, I have a guest pass for my family and friends, but I'm not going to use that for my business or the lodging for them, for guests. If there's insufficient off-street parkings available, so we would prefer most people park on their own property, but not everybody has enough space. So they're going to have to park on the public streets. The hosts and owners may purchase now. This is a temporary guest parking hang tag instead, and that'll be available at the police department, and they'll purchase them in packets of 10 for $20. So as they need more, I intend to buy a bunch of them because I'm going to use a lot of them in my PC. The host, owner host will provide the guests with the temporary hang tags, and that's one per vehicle on the street. The host will indicate on the tag the start date of the visit. The hang tags without a start date will be considered invalid, and therefore they could be ticketed. Each guest vehicle parked on the street must display this temporary hang tag in the review mirror with the date, and the business name will already be on this tag, visible to the front of the vehicle. This is for our law enforcement, our attendant parking attendant to quickly verify whether the car is properly tagged with a hang tag and making sure they're good. Guest vehicles must park as closely to the front of their business, preferably within the same block. The tag, like I said, will be good for 3 days. At that point, it's expired. Then at that point, they'll have to purchase another hang tag if they're staying longer. These hang tags are disposable. They don't need to return them. Before the guest passes that you have to be returned, these do not. And it could be a little souvenir for them. Just kidding. They're nice though. She ordered them. They're pretty sharp. So the purchase of the hang tag is no guarantee that there'll be a parking space available on the street. So we're not committing to that. We're not guaranteeing that. The hang tag does not imply reserved parking. If no nearby parking is available, the host owner is responsible for finding alternative legal parking arrangements for their guests. And the selling of hang tags to non-guests, as determined by the parking committee, is not permitted and shall be grounds for a penalty. We have no idea what that penalty is, but we'll work on that until we get somebody abusing the program. No, they'll deal with Verlissa. So this should give us much better control with the lodging places here for people who stay overnight on our streets. They don't need a parking hang tag if they're parking on the B&B's property or the short-term rentals property. So that's just a presentation. Melissa's done some tremendous work on it, and Patty. They put together this application for lodging business parking permit. These are also for some of the owners who don't, of these establishments who don't live in Harpers Ferry, and we have a few of those, very few. Most owners of our establishments of lodging in the town live here, but there are a few that don't. So they'll be able to apply for a sticker for their vehicle, and it has to go on their vehicle. They can't give this to their guests. And then the other page has to do with purchasing these packets of hang tags. What we're trying to do is get our system under control. We know we're going to have a lot more stress in our parking with the opening of construction or the groundbreaking at the Hilltop. We understand that's going to put a real burden on the town's parking, and eventually with the hotel opening. So we're doing everything, and we have other programs we're working on, but this is a big one for right now. Any questions? Sure.
If I could, I got one question and one suggestion. Christian, I don't know what the first sentence in number 3 means.
If insufficient off-street parking. If insufficient off-street parking is available for the number of guest vehicles, the following street parking options available. The option is available only for town licensed short-term rentals and B&Bs located in a residential zone.
I'm focusing on the first line. If insufficient off-street parking is available,
This is for
what does
somebody
that
who
mean?
doesn't have parking on their property. They don't have parking on their property.
There is not sufficient.
They just don't have it.
Yeah, it's like a double single and negative. If I'm the only way, then I'm the one that doesn't understand that, then it's me.
But it's basically, the only people who are gonna need this are people who don't have, I don't have, for my place, I'm on the street.
Okay, I was looking at it as if sufficient off-street parking is not available. Is that the same thing?
It's,
Or just say if off-street parking is not
Yeah,
available.
it's the insufficient thing that's not, it's making, I don't,
what was it again?
If you just take out the word
Take out
insufficient,
Insufficient.
Put off-street
If
parking.
off-street parking is available.
is not,
Is
not available.
is not available, okay.
and then suggestion on the penalty.
Oh.
Why not just say that would be on J, Christian, on
Yeah.
the second page.
We don't want to take away their right.
The selling, well, I was going to say, if the selling of handheld non-guests is determined, blah, 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 and shall be grounds for revocation of on-street parking privileges.
We didn't like
It's not saying that we're going to do it. It's better than
Well, we want.
saying they're going to be
leave it
subject to a
vague.
penalty.
We
do-
we could do that.
Do with it what you want. I just throw it out.
This is an evolving policy. This would be good for the year, and then we only threw that in at the last minute because somebody said there'll be somebody who'll abuse it.
Yeah.
I think Pat brought that up, right? Or for less money brought it up, and I thought, well, we better put something in there. We're gonna whack it. I mean, no, we're going to maybe take away your parking privileges. I don't know.
So like they is my birthday.
Yeah,
Whatever, do with that. what you
whatever.
want.
Okay.
Thanks, Christian. Kevin.
I have a question or comment.
Oh,
So we recently received an email from a resident of Bolivar who has been a special exception to our parking policy for several years now. And while the tone of that email, I think, was inappropriate and should have been worded better, I actually agree with her argument, at least preliminarily. I'm curious, what was the discussion or rationale that was had to no longer allow that person to park in Harpers Ferry, given the unique situation there? And would the same decision have been made for someone who resides within the corporate limits of Harpers Ferry?
we're not giving any preferential treatment to Parking is a difficult in the town. This particular person I know has parked in front of her house for a long time. But this person has room for vehicles on her property. She has room on Union and she has room on her property. She can park in her property. She has options. She can park from 6 o'clock in the evening till 8 o'clock in the morning. There's no parking fee at all on our streets. She has options.
And
We're not picking on anybody in this town. I don't want to, I have the letter, we've been thinking about this for several years. At least a couple of years, but because the permit got issued every year, parking committee felt we couldn't do anything about it. But this year, she hadn't gotten her parking permit.
So in the past, a parking permit.
It was inappropriately, according to our letter and what we wrote. I'll you want me to read the letter?
Which letter?
We sent her a letter.
Oh,
That's what prompted the complaint, right?
Well, I don't know how, it only should have really gone to her. The letter, it was not a public letter. I mean, I don't know if you want me to bring that up. It's not on our agenda.
maybe not. Maybe not.
well, I just, like I said, I was wondering what was the rationale and the discussions that we had. to
Our policy
arrive
has
at that
always
decision.
been for Harpers Ferry residents and visitors. Our parking is drained. We get a lot of visitors to our town. We're not picking on anybody in particular, but this person happens to be the only one doing that. But we don't know how we could stop other Bolivar residents from parking in Harpers Ferry. And that was our concern.
I thought that we actually had something in writing in the policy at one time specifying her exception.
I don't have the documents. I was
And-
not ahead. I did not make this decision. This was made by Hardy Johnson years ago. But we felt he didn't have the authority to make that decision.
So it wasn't made by the committee.
In the past, I don't know. I've only been in the commission 2 years.
And again, as I asked previously, if this person had been a resident in Harpers Ferry, would the same decision have been made?
Well, in that case, wouldn't she have been able to get a,
Parking.
We would have issued him a parking
or
sticker.
she would have gotten a.
If they're a
parking sticker?
resident, we ask all residents to purchase the $5 parking sticker, and they're allowed to. So we're not blocking
The
anybody.
rules are different if you're. a
Any
Ferry
Harpers
resident.
Ferry resident from it,
Right.
and we're even opening it up to business owners, lodging owners who don't live here. We're allowing that sticker.
What I had wondered is if there could not be, and this would be a decision for the parking committee to consider, and then, if it needs to come before the council, it can, but to me, it would make sense for that particular property, and there may be others that I can't think of right now, where their house is basically on a Harpers Ferry street, to offer those non-residents of Harpers Ferry the option of a parking permit.
If they have parking on their own property, you're saying that's,
Well, it would be the same as any of us residents who have parking on our property. We can still get a sticker.
so you're opening this up to Bolivar residents.
No, just where.
I mean, you're going into, we try to keep these policies tight, and you're opening it up.
Well, it's something I would.
I don't want to be a good old boy system like it's who you know and stuff. I want to stop that in this town.
Well,
We have rules. We want to follow our rules.
No, it's not an issue for town council probably tonight, but it is something that I would like to take to the parking committee maybe and discuss a bit, because I think it could involve a pretty simple solution that would be fair.
Yeah, I agree. I think hers is a unique situation that doesn't apply to anyone else who doesn't live within the corporate limits of our town. And I think that should be taken into consideration. Not everything is black and white. Sometimes there are going to be exceptions to rules given a certain situation.
You can pass that on. I made one for everybody. I thought this might come up tonight.
Okay, we'll just leave this here. If you have additional comments, anybody on this particular issue, either get a hold of Christian or John, or who else is on the committee?
Patrick Turney and I. And
Patrick
we have
Tierney.
The chief for list. So.
Yeah, and express your concern and, interject yourself at the next meeting if you want to. Excuse me. Okay, Jerry.
Yeah, knowing the lateness of the hour, I thought that I had sent you all a copy of my proposal to consider restoration of the Office Operations Committee, which I feel is really necessary for uniform personnel policies and could be of considerable assistance to the mayor, could give us greater oversight over the town's operations. Since I think most of you did not receive it due to a mailing error, I used members of the town council as the vehicle to send this document. And it turns out that I think Kevin and the mayor are the only people under that. Everybody else is under town council. So I sent it to use the wrong subhead. And I know that it's getting really late. I hope I'd be interested in if you have any initial comments, but in view of the lateness of the hour and that we have another item that I know we need to act on and new business, I'm willing to put this over till next month, but I would hope that you consider it. These are just thoughts that I have and why I feel that I was chair of the Office Operations Committee. I felt that we performed a very valuable function and gave the staff of our town a more visible contact with the council and would certainly improve our oversight and ability to have uniform policies regarding personnel, and in some cases actually fill some roles that right now aren't really practical with regards to complaints about bullying or sexual harassment complaints, this type of thing. So I hope that you'll consider this document, my suggestions and thoughts, and as I said, I'm willing to put it over till next month in view of the fact that you didn't get the document when I sent it out on Saturday. But if there are any initial comments.
Jerry, I feel that we can still discuss this today.
Yeah.
And we already put it off a month to get to here
Right.
because of the public hearing we had
That's right.
last month. I would really like to discuss it at this meeting and, how do you,
Well, we could, just initial comments based on what you've seen and, I guess I don't.
I guess the most striking thing about looking at the employee manual is that all grievances are taken to the supervisor, who since the mayor is the supervisor for almost everybody, almost all the employees, but sometimes the grievance is with the supervisor. And I'm not saying that that's the case, but here we're talking in general, is that the purpose of it, an office ops committee would provide another layer and independent body for someone with a grievance to go to. That seems And that's the way it was done in the past.
Right, and in addition, we've had several, the mayor has had to ask for several ad hoc committees dealt with complaints from outsider complaints involving commissions. That was previously handled by office ops, sometimes bringing in an outside expert if necessary. So it would provide uniform and consistent handling of this type of policy. The same goes for employment and recruitment. And also in a way, the office ops formerly operated like as an HR office and to some extent for the personnel, for people in our staff here. So that's, as I said, those are some of the main points. We have a responsibility as the governing body of the town to be able to, if necessary, investigate issues or at least look into complaints that are received.
I think it's a reasonable request and I think probably a good idea. I'm wondering if in the past, was there a mission statement or bylaws or something that the committee gave the committee its jobs and
It was I think it was originally in the employment manual, and that was, in fact, that was one of the jobs that office ops head was revising that. And then when that was completed, I think at that point, the office ops had ceased to exist. The mayor hadn't felt that it was necessary. So I don't have the original statement, but we did have.
That's right. Nancy Case apparently wrote the employee manual, or else she updated it when she was on the council. So it is a beautiful piece of work. If you look at it, there's not one single mistake in the entire manual. So that was all the way up till the time that the present administration came in.
This
What is-
originally was, Jerry, I think it was originally set up by Joe.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is a mission statement in bylaws.
No, I think it was envisioned that it would be as part of a handbook. And
Yeah.
in fact, when I was working on the original draft of that, we did include that.
Yeah.
I agree with you. There was not an original bylaws, and we sort of assumed just by practice these functions and it worked. I think it worked pretty well.
Yeah, I thought it was very useful when I was mayor before, because we had some very difficult
Yes.
and some we'll just leave it at that, very difficult personnel issues that we dealt with. And as you know, we met many times on those personnel issues and made some unfortunate decisions for the employee, I guess.
Yeah.
And I thought it served a good asset to me when I was mayor before, and providing me the
Right.
unfiltered information that I needed.
And I don't want to obviously get into that individual personality, but we attempted various means of accommodating the problems that employee felt. And it was only after the accommodations that we attempted did not work that she resigned or was forced to resign. The good news on that was that by showing that we had done everything we could to accommodate the situation, if she had brought a suit, we had a settlement. If this employee brought a suit, we had really a very good case to show that we had attempted to accommodate, and that was through office ops and through constant attention of. I worked on that personally, but
It wasn't just employee, it was employees, if you
you're right.
recall. There
Yeah,
were
it
many.
was. Yeah, we had,
that we
it
dealt
was more
with.
than one. It was more than one.
And but I tell you, the biggest thing that I remember from the office ops, and I think a great use for it right now would be taking a look at the handbook and going through that. I know that before, years ago, Jerry, you guys did that and did the yeoman's responsibility. I don't have a problem with it personally. I haven't had, thankfully, the need for it myself. But if that's the will of this council, I don't have a problem with it. So I don't know what you want to do. If you want to look further into this from the standpoint of coming up with some parameters for what are we calling it? Office ops. Like somebody mentioned, I don't know who it was, mission statement and bylaws, et cetera, governing parameters.
Right.
If, put something like that together and bring it before this body, and then, let's see where it goes.
Who would like to be on it? Would anyone sitting here? I know everyone has so much that they do.
Yeah, I'd be willing, and I'd also be willing to.
I'm willing to be on it as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think since this is the first time this has been introduced, I just put together an idea and justification for reinstating it, but I'd certainly be willing to work on mission statement and specific bylaws on the limit, and I agree that would be necessary.
Let's do that.
Before we approve that.
Yeah, put a full package
I
together,
will.
Jerry. Thanks for doing that.
If anyone else would like to be on it, please email either me or Jerry. Good.
Thank you.
Be good to have a third person.
Thanks, Laura, for volunteering to do that. Next one would be under new business discussion action on revision to a PD and titling change. Just a background for everybody. I'm going to try to do this in the open and in the clear. If I see that we're getting into a personnel issue, then I will request go into executive session. But I think we can do this in the open. When I became mayor this time, I started reviewing all the PDs, position descriptions, and duties and responsibilities, and made some significant changes that you all agreed to. Changed PDs, put them in a proper format, a format that makes sense, a format that is very descriptive, a descriptive standards with very, very descriptive duties and responsibilities. And whether you like it or not, these are the PDs, the way that they are set up with the federal government, and I'm spending many years with dealing with these things back then. I could not find a better standard to go by on how they come up with position descriptions and how they write them and the format that they use. So basically, we've adopted that here. And I think it's a very meaningful process to go through. This is the last one. I think we've done all of them at the water plant, and everybody else is under the current format, where you have an introduction, you have the major duties and responsibilities, you have knowledge and skills required by the position, special requirements, supervisory controls, guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. So we're in the position now, and I'm requesting approval for this. There is no salary change. There's no effect there. I was never a fan of the current title of the position. It did not mean anything to me where the incumbent is currently functioning under. I've had many discussions with the incumbent on this. And I've worked closely with the incumbent on this. And I think that this is the way to go. I think this PD really clarifies the work that the incumbent is doing and the expectations of the incumbent. And I am requesting approval of this position description to include a titling change to a more common title, administrative officer, which, is the current title. Just I don't know. Anyway, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have, but I think that this is the right way to go. You may or may not have experience in this area. I know Jerry has had some experience, and I've had a little bit of experience in this kind of stuff. And I'm just recommending that I think we ought to take this approach. It protects the town when you have a position description with the duties and responsibilities and those kinds of things adequately spelled out. And this is the last remaining one to be accomplished. So whatever you all want to do. Again, if we get into some of the discussion
think.
starts going on a
yeah.
personal thing,
I
I'll
think
declare
it-
an executive session.
I think it's an excellent and necessary change. The current description is neither fish nor fowl, nor even to look at it, you couldn't really describe what the person really does. It's and what you've done in the position description, you've described standards, what it is the person does, given the person a position that is that recognizes the importance of the work that is being performed. And I think the present description really diminishes the person's standing and minimizes the valuable work that's being done by the person currently holding that position. So I think it's an excellent change.
Was there another choice for job title or was that the only one?
There was a couple more that I threw around, but I think that this is the most appropriate one, Laurel.
It's just sort of so new that I'm having trouble of
Right.
absorbing it and.
Just trust me in this, it's a common title.
Yeah,
um,
it is.
For these types of activities at the incumbent. I've either done a great job describing this or you're totally
I'm
baffled.
having a bit trouble finding the document.
Yeah.
It wasn't in our, I read it briefly and you can't
I
find
think
it.
it's.
Oh, yeah, it's in an email.
Yeah, I can't find it
I was
by
just
email.
looking, yeah, let's
It
see.
came in later.
Here we are. I think it was December.
It's from,
February 9th was the date of the email.
it came from Patty.
Oh, from Patty. Okay. Yeah, we can find it.
February 9th.
Yeah.
I got a hard copy here, Christian, if you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief. Good night.
Right. Can't find it under her either. Let's see. I read it. I don't know where.
Oh,
This Thursday. Yeah.
yeah, it's not it either.
Oh, here we are. Maybe this is it. Ah, I found it. I actually found it. Here it is. It's under, whoops,
It's under confidential. areas.
confidential Thursday. Yeah, it's there. It's administrative office doc, and it's a, yeah, document. And it's, yeah, I knew I had read it before I came in, but it's very well, I think, very well crafted. It's in office, as I said, last Thursday. Under and the heading of it was an email sent by Patty headed
Yeah.
confidential. It's the first of the attachments there.
Yeah, I read through it. I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
read it.
I just, when I
Remember
read it,
all the details from now.
I didn't see the job title at the top, so I didn't really absorb that to go with this. I just was reading the responsibilities.
Well, I looked it over and I think the descriptions are very good. The only thing I had under special requirements, I think, and this may be not only for this person, but others within the office. I think we've got to have something about IT. Because our office is moving rapidly through more IT upgrades probably in the next years or next year or so. And I think that we're looking at training, and I don't see anything about training our people up for that, because this person will be responsible for office computers. And so this person needs to, you know, if we have an issue, then this is a go-to person for this position, right? I mean, you have operative skill and office automation systems for document billings on photocopy scanners, facsimile machines, voicemail, and
I'm
office
sorry, would you
computers.
say, which one are you on?
On G.
Four.
G. G,
Oh,
I'm on
yeah,
3G on the top page.
3G.
So I'm saying when you have
Yeah.
office computers, I'm not putting the person, I'm not talking about the person now I'm talking about this position. This position requires some background in computers, and if they don't, they need training.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, if you do this, I would suggest we find training,
I thought I put that in here. Let me see.
yeah,
unless I missed it, it's a lot of stuff.
yeah, we have operative skill in regard to automation systems used to document. Yeah, I mean, special requirements are either ability or willingness.
Because
to
right
train,
now, we
ability
go
or
through,
willingness
if
to
there's
train.
any kind of computer issues right now, we go to the financial officer.
Yeah.
So this is a change, I believe.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's a reasonable requirement that the person either have knowledge and background
Have a background
or
already,
ability
or-
or willingness to train and ability to train in those areas. I think that could be added.
You know,
to
knowing
requirements.
our work, Office 365. Questions on that, who the contacts are at Advantage. Is it Advantage, right?
Sounds good.
That's a quick fix.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's nothing big. But I think the person should get trained, and then in the future, you'd be want to hiring somebody with that background.
All right, let's see if there's a willingness to somebody put a motion on the floor.
Just wondering exactly how to do that we would be moving to change from the current job title and description to the title of administrative officer
As presented.
and the description as presented. Okay. Can I make that a motion then? Okay. So I move to change the current title and job description as presented to the title administrative officer and the new job description as presented.
A second on the motion. Second from Jerry. Discussion on the motion to approve. Kevin.
So as part of that motion, we actually need to identify the current job title
Okay,
that's being changed.
Changed, right?
so let's insert into that the
Yeah.
office coordinator, the title of office coordinator.
Right.
Yeah, and I would think in regard to the special needs section, incumbent must have knowledge and ability to operate computer system and programs or ability to receive training in these areas. To be added as special requirements, and that reinforces the list of functions that that person has, but it also makes it, as you said, particularly valuable in the future. If the position became vacant, then we would be looking to be one of the things, qualities that would give a person an opportunity to be to qualify for it. And it's not closing people out who don't have the knowledge, but obviously in the future, if people apply to somebody who did, that would be some points in there in that person's favor. But at a minimum, needs that must have the ability or maybe willingness to receive training in these areas right now.
Thank you, Jerry. Good point. Any other? All those in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Are there any? Chris, you wanted, I know you talked in the beginning about the trail, and you also said that we didn't put on the agenda. What did you call it? Other reports? or- Yeah,
In the past, on the agenda, we've had reports from other organizations, and a lot of times I could slip in a trail report under that for Canal Town information or
Okay.
something.
I'll ask our new administrative officer to put that in our next agendas and future agendas. Yeah.
It would be helpful. It would avoid me having to think ahead to to do a special agenda request.
Could we just leave those in? I mean, I always want to know what's going on with all of the trails, the bike trails. There's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff, and just leave it as a hard.
I think it
Yeah.
also
report.
leaves us open when if someone from the town foundation or the women's club or any other town organization needed to report information that would be pertinent to the council and the town, it would be a
Yeah,
good place
sure.
to.
No problem. And then hopefully in the near future, like this coming month, we'll be able to have a monthly report on the hotel. That's going to be one of the other things that I talked with Mr. Sayer about this evening of talking with their attorney.
Sounds good.
Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second on the motion to adjourn from Christian. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? It passes unanimously. We are adjourned at 9:15 PM.
Trying to go down.